I don't wanna sleep tonight. Feel you creeping in my dreams tonight. There's no way to get around you, but I never fully found you. Nothing feels right. Got me acting like an addict, saw my face inside the casket.
I have been wanting to film a proper sit-down reading vlog type video for like 2 months, but just with my schedule, it's been a little chaotic. Finally, I'm back home in Calgary. I'm surrounded by my books, and I feel like this is the most opportune time to start filming reading vlogs again. So here we are. This week, I wanted to read predominantly just like murder, mystery, thriller kind of things, investigations, stuff of that sort. And I've already kind of started on this trajectory. So I've completed 2 books already. The first one, I don't know that I really got much camera time with, but that is The Black Queen by Jumada Emil. And the story centers around the death of Nova Albright. She is crowned the first Black homecoming queen at her high school, and the runner-up, Tinsley MacArthur, whose sister, mom, and grandmother were all crowned homecoming queen, is incredibly frustrated by this because she feels like Nova got this just because she was Black, and Tinsley's like, that's not fair. I should get it. So obviously, on the night of the coronation, Tinsley just happened to say some very, very awful things, specifically that she wanted to kill Nova, and she explicitly stated how she would do it. And on the night of the coronation, Nova is murdered, and the next day she turns up dead. All fingers are pointing to Tinsley because this video was not only recorded, but it was also posted and went viral. So Tinsley is at the forefront of this kind of investigation. Like, people think that she is the killer. She's trying to prove her innocence. So we read a part of the book from her personal perspective, and then Nova's best friend, Duchess, is trying to prove Tinsley's guilt. So we also get her POV in this book. So it's a dual POV story. I thought this was brilliantly done for several reasons. I think the conversation around race and like kind of liberal forms of like racial transcendence and like how that is racism was really, really uniquely addressed in the story. But also just the twist and the turn, like in terms of it being a mystery. Oh, this one got me because the way my jaw was on the floor when I was figuring things out, like I was just, oh, I was shocked. Next book, which you would have seen me start this reading vlog with, and that is The Ivies by Alexa Dawn. This was also a really interesting story. It centers around a friend group who go to this prestigious boarding school, and they are called the Ivies because each one of them is targeting a specific Ivy League school to attend. And they are ruthless. They basically work to discredit and remove competition. So anyone in their year that could potentially get into these programs, they try and disrupt their SAT scores, try and, you know, get them to fail exams, get them out of good positions that would make them like notable students. They just do a whole bunch of things. So when one of the girls in the group gets into Harvard and turns up dead, a huge investigation ensues, and like obviously we have a million murder suspects because everyone hates these girls. And we get to read this from Olivia, the narrator's point of view, which I thought was kind of interesting. There were aspects to her that kind of annoyed me, I won't lie, but that's a conversation for another time. Now I am reading Someone Is Always Watching by Kelly Armstrong. I started this in the car on our way back from dinner, and I am already intrigued by the story. Like, Kelly Armstrong just never disappoints me, and I feel like I'm really gonna enjoy this book. So I'm gonna do some reading now, and then I'll keep you guys updated, hopefully a little bit more with this book than I did with the last ones. But yeah, stay tuned for more reading content because I'm gonna be making a ton of reading vlogs. very up close and personal. Let me put this over here. This is my update. So I kind of just want to like mention the things I don't really like about this. They're worth pointing out. I'm not the biggest fan of third-person POVs generally. I just think that they can make a person feel really disconnected from the story. I like first-person POV the most, and I like multi-POV stories where there's first-person POV, right? This book has first-person POV through the main character, who's Blythe, and then it has multi-POV, like, so the other characters' perspective, but in third person, which I understand why she's doing that, because like a lot of the characters are like related, so then you can get two kind of, I don't know, actually. I mean, I think it works, I just don't like third person, so that's on me. Another thing, I feel like these characters are too smart for their own good. Like, they're figuring things out too quickly. And I don't know if that's like something I should be bothered by, because I normally complain that characters take too long to get things that are common sense. But some of the stuff these characters are figuring out, I'm like, what kind of curriculum do you have at your school? Because I don't think people your age, their brains are working at that capacity and piecing such obscure and abnormal things together like that. Like, do you know what I mean? But I'm not necessarily complaining, because I'm like, oh, wonderful, we can like move on now that you've acknowledged that this is a possibility. I think the character that has the most doubt is Blythe, who's the main character. But other than that, everyone seems to like believe that everything is a possibility. I'm just like, I don't know what the big twist is yet. I have some ideas, but it seems like some of these characters know more than I know. So I don't know how I feel like being on the outs. I love, what is it called? Dramatic irony, when the reader knows but the characters don't. That's really fun sometimes when it's not annoying. But I feel like I'm enjoying myself. So like a lot has happened in the story. The main character's best friend, Gabrielle, is like on the run. Like, this girl's missing after having a meltdown and getting it checked into a special hospital. She escapes the hospital, and like now everyone's looking for her, including her friends, but they're trying to do it on like the down low because things are just looking very suspicious, like very suspicious. And I don't want to say too much because I feel like it's really easy to spoil a book like this. There's like mystery thriller, like you give a little too much and then boom, people are piecing together the plot without ever reading the story. So I don't know, those are my thoughts, but I'm just enjoying reading lazily as one does.
Why can't we feel the same?
I am almost done. Someone is always watching, and honestly, like, I don't even know if I'm liking the story anymore. I kind of just want to know what's going on, to be honest. I feel like it's dragging in some capacities, and I'm not really sure how. Like, I need to think about it a little more, but it just feels, I don't know, like it's not giving what it was giving at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still enjoying it, but I'm like, this is by no means one of Armstrong's best books. Like, by no means. Hello everyone, I have officially finished these 3 books, so I'm going to chat with you about them, about my thoughts, kind of wrap up this reading vlog really quickly, and then I'm going to start my next reading vlog. But yeah, let's work in the order of the book I just finished because it's freshest in my mind, and that is Someone Is Always Watching by Kelly Armstrong. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I had really high hopes for this book just because Kelly Armstrong is an author that I highly rate. Like, I've read a number of her books. Rarely am I disappointed, and I think this book is kind of in between. Not that I'm disappointed, but it wasn't exceptional like I thought it would be, and I suppose that would warrant disappointment, but I'm just like, about it, if that makes sense. So this story was following a group of teenagers. Most of their parents were working for this company, this like medical tech company called CMT. I don't remember what that stands for, but they were, yeah, their parents were working for this company, and several of them were in like a specific friend group. Various things kind of occurred. One of them like moved and then came back, and then one of their friends at the beginning of the book has like this mental breakdown. She's talking about surveillance cameras kind of, and how that's like bothering her, that she's being watched all the time, and then like a tragic or like violent event occurs that kind of sets off the trajectory of the rest of the story. Her friends are kind of trying to help her out while also digging into the secrets that their parents and this company may be hiding. I thought I knew where it was going because I've read the Darkest Powers trilogy, or the Darkest Powers and Darkness Rising, and initially it can feel very similar to those stories. However, it wasn't those stories, and I think because I had that in my mind, I was kind of comparing them, and I don't know, those just felt more compelling. I think perhaps because of the supernatural element, this felt a little more like tech, scientific, thriller kind of thing going on, and I don't know, after a while I just was like not super invested in figuring out who was behind all the crazy things. I kind of just wanted to figure out what was going on with this group of friends particularly, but like the crimes that were occurring, or like, you know, the crazy stuff that was happening, I wasn't like, I need to know who's doing this. I was just like, whatever. And for that reason, I feel like the story didn't fully sell me. Like I wasn't, you know, 100% like, this is the greatest thing ever, which sucks because right off the bat, like I think earlier on, I think before I hit the 50% mark, I was obsessed. Like this book was glued to my hand. I didn't want to put it down, and then things kind of just started going downhill, which again, like that sucks so much. I honestly, at the end of the day, didn't really mind the third person POV situation that was kind of occurring. I mean, I kind of got used to it. Again, third person POV is not my favorite, but I think it can work, and I think it was useful for what the author was doing. I ended up giving this a 3.5 star rating, and this actually ended up being my lowest rated book, but 3.5 stars because like I would maybe read it again, but like I'm not eager to do so, and I didn't hate it. I did like the character. I have complicated feelings basically. And the next book, or like the book I read before that one, is The Ivies by Alexa Dawn, and this book, again, just with the trajectory that the story went in at the end, or like towards the end, I just stopped feeling committed to the story. And I don't know if it was because I was trying to read like thriller after thriller, or like mystery after mystery, but at some point I was like, who cares who the murderer is? I just want the story to kind of wrap up in some capacity. But this, I think I've talked about it at length. Following the Ivies, girl gets in Harvard, she's murdered, and we're trying to figure out who the murderer is, and like there's other secrets that are kind of unraveling. So I ended up giving this 4 stars, which I guess at the end of the day, the setting of the story and like the kind of, I don't know, things that were happening, perhaps I enjoyed it a little bit more. I don't know what to tell you. One of my favorite was the first one that I read that you didn't even get to see me reading, but I started technically the vlog stuff, or like this challenge with this book, which is The Black Queen by Jumada Emil. This was my absolute favorite. I give it 4.5 stars. I just think that the conversation it had about race was so nuanced and interesting. And it's a conversation that I think is really relevant. But the way the author did it was really, really good. Like, it didn't feel info dumpy. It didn't feel like, you know, it was like awkwardly kind of woven into the story. Like, it was really seamlessly done, in my opinion. And I think the kind of notion that we haven't transcended issues of race, and like there are biases that exist within people, and then there's also institutional factors that make progress for specific groups of people more difficult. I think the way the book kind of discusses that was just brilliant. I think the way that the author just like discussed all of these things was just really well done. So I ended up giving that 4.5 stars. And those are my thoughts on these 3 books. I am happy that I read them. It's kind of ignited my like love for, you know, reading in like 3s. Usually if I'm in a book slump, I'll pick up a trilogy because it gets me like picking up books right after the other, but I didn't want to read a trilogy per se for this. I wanted to just read 3 books that were in the same genre, so that's what I did. yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time with another reading vlog.